Welcome everyone. I'm excited to be doing this live streaming thing again. It's well, the last one was in January, and it's I promised we would make them monthly, but yeah, alas, I often promise things when it comes to YouTube that don't really turn out to be true. But we are here now, so I wanted to start the stream just of course, first by saying a big welcome to everybody that is joining in. I see, loads of people coming in. Yeah, it's really cool, and it's quite different from I'm used to now speaking on camera in front of a big audience. Like say one of our choral videos can get watched by more than 1 million people, and that's kind of crazy. But somehow for all you lovely people here on this stream, it feels like it's a lot of people, for all you 54 people out there that are viewing this stream right now. But yeah, very excited to be here. So first, I just wanted to kind of so this stream is mainly going to be about answering your questions. I have a lot of questions submitted by members, so that's why I'm looking down at my notes here. And I'll also be answering some questions from YouTube. I'll start at first with some questions that have already been submitted, and then I'll go on to the YouTube ones that Tom Hicken, who's here helping me with the live stream, is summarizing for me, so I can get to them. And before we get to that, I first just wanted to say or to talk a little bit about like the video plan. Ultimately, most people watching this channel care a lot about like the kind of videos that we're putting out there and when you can see the next update and so on. So our goal is, and it still remains, to reach 23 videos in this year of 2026. So far, if you're counting, we have 2 videos out in 4 months. So the maths is not really going so good for my typical over-promising on YouTube. But I think we might get things in the right direction. We might still be able to meet our goals. I'm quite optimistic about this, because right now we have actually 4 videos filmed that are going through the process of scripting, editing, and getting them out. Lily, who is one of our Scottish biologists, is right now filming 2 additional videos, and I'm actually heading out soon to film 3 additional videos this month. So things are starting to move. So I expect to pick up a bit more pace with the videos soon. That being said, you would still have been able to see a lot of updates from our FieldNotes channel. So I always want to shout that out in case you didn't know. We have our Mossy FieldNotes channel. There we've posted 5 long form videos directly from our biologists explaining the projects. These videos don't have like this kind of YouTube pacing. They're like just really relaxed. There's no time pressure, so I think they're also they're really worth a watch if you just want to kind of like calmly get into things, go down rabbit holes, see specific topics. Like I think they're really interesting. And also on the FieldNotes channel, we have posted 91 shorts this year. So these shorts are from our hubs. And they cover all kinds of different topics. And these same shorts are also going into the social accounts for our Rewilding hubs. So if you're craving more content, it's out there. But in terms of main videos, there'll be a new one tomorrow. Then this main YouTube channel here. So there'll be a new coral video out tomorrow, which I'm quite excited to release. It's about the new fish village that we are creating now. And then in May, you can expect a new video in the Amazon. And I'll also attempt to do one of these live streams on the ground. It'll depend a lot on the connection, and that's something I'm a little bit nervous. And then throughout the summer, I expect to increase to 2 and then 3 videos a month, maybe peaking at 4 videos if we manage to get really, really busy as, the projects. I like to think that videos for Mossy Earth kind of follow the seasons a little bit, maybe like Northern Hemisphere seasons. So the summer is just like a really, really busy time. So I think we'll have a lot of updates for you then. And finally, just touching again on the live streams, I'm going to try to do one on the ground at one of our wetland projects that we support with BROZ in Slovakia. It's I know many of you's favorite projects. So I'm gonna try to see if that can happen, but it's gonna depend a lot on the connection. So like keep your eyes out for that maybe. And besides that, we're gonna try to continue to do these hopefully monthly. I know we failed February and March, but yeah, we'll pick it up and see if we're able to make this a monthly thing. Okay, so those were sort of like questions just to kind of get out of the way, because I know I was gonna hear a lot about this. Because the first question I have here from one of our members is, it's kind of like a group of questions. A lot of people asked about this, which is, when are there going to be more updates on the quarry and on the Slovak wetlands? Because the Mossy Earth membership base loves a good water-related project on land, like creating a lake or creating a wetland. And it's true, because they're like immediately transformative. They're like super entertaining and interesting to watch. They're like kind of real visual rewilding. So they're also a pleasure to film, so I understand that. But you'll be pleased to hear that I'm actually gonna go film on the quarry project in 4 days. So that's like really exciting. And then I'm gonna head out to Slovakia. I'm actually driving there this time, putting the baby in the car, and me and Julia, we're gonna head out to Slovakia to film a bunch of updates. So that's the Chilis wetlands, we flooded a field wetlands, it's the flooded forest, and we're also some of the other updates that or projects that we've funded with BROS. So you can expect more on that then. And then some of you were asking specifically for the quarry whether you can expect to have like this, whether we're gonna go on with this crawfish broil. This like we ended the last update with this big topic of the invasive crayfish, and we are thinking about doing a project on that front, but we haven't moved with that yet. It's a really cool and exciting idea that we have been exploring. But we are yet to sort of get everything in order and then get everything over to Rewilding Portugal to get it implemented. So maybe that update will be next year. But you'll be hearing about the crayfish again in this video, I'm sure. Then another group of questions, because I just wanted to get some of these out of the way, is about collaborations. And I see already in the chat here there are a lot of points around who we're gonna collaborate with, and whether we will make more collaborations with both YouTubers and with existing rewilding organizations. So I see here Planet Wild, Leaf Curious, Pleistocene Park, Rewilding Europe. I see also the Maya Alveo Sanctuary that I had to kind of Google before this stream. Project Camp gets mentioned a lot. And in an ideal world, we'd love to collaborate with all these wonderful people. It's been mostly like a matter of time. I mean, we are primarily a rewilding focused organization. We are doing work on the ground. Most of our team is on the ground and is comprised of biologists and ecologists and project managers and field team and so on. And the videos are essentially a way of documenting our work, and we're lucky enough that we're able to put them out there and organically get people to watch them. So we also don't do any of these like sponsored segments on like random YouTube videos. We keep it simple. We're just documenting the work that we're doing and hope that people are interested enough to follow along. That being said, would love to do some collaborations. I actually had Dave from Project Camp visit me here for a chat. So we might be doing something with them, and of course I keep in touch quite frequently with Marcus probably like once or twice a year with Marcus from Planet Wild. We were in touch since way before they were Planet Wild, and there might be an opportunity perhaps for them to fund one of our projects, but currently that's a little bit in the the ball is actually on my court to get back to them with some cool ideas that they could be interested in funding. So those would be some exciting opportunities. But broadly speaking, I think that we are so busy with our own projects, and those organizations are so busy with theirs, and that often maybe collaboration isn't as advantageous as you would think right away, right? It's just Perhaps it's just all of us. Perhaps it's something that, as a viewer, one really wants to see these two YouTubers you really like collaborating, or these two organizations you really like collaborating. But maybe the scope for actual meaningful collaboration is narrow. But we keep an eye on that, and hopefully we can do something this year. I think it would be really cool. Then I had some questions here about covering old versus new projects. I think there's a lot of people that especially want to see updates on older projects that we haven't touched on in a while. For instance, we haven't made a flooded forest video since, well, we didn't make it last year, we made it the year prior. And my goal this year is to hit like a lot of these update type videos. So you'll be getting a lot of updates on much older projects to really show the results. And we're also gonna cover some that didn't go so well, so that we really can, cover the whole range of like rewilding outcomes. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. I would expect that, or I hope that in 2027 we'll be able to focus a little bit more on new projects and introducing new and interesting ideas. We'll also do that this year, but I just don't want to be making the same videos, if I could get to 20 videos, the same 20 videos every year, right? So some projects are worthy of a follow-up every year. Some projects may be worthy of a follow-up every 2 to 3 years, because also it's like, as you know, like once time accumulates, the updates are much more meaningful and interesting. So, cool. Then I had a question here from Chrissy around rewilding urban areas. So would Mossy Earth ever consider rewilding an urban area? Is it more complicated than rewilding rural or wild terrains? And I think, we hear this a lot, because I would imagine most of our members, by sheer statistical sort of like likelihood, I would imagine most of them are in cities. And I've lived a lot in cities as well, and always wondered, could this be a little bit wilder? And I think there's a lot of scope to do more work. That being said, I think there's also a lot more funding and a lot more capability and a lot more projects ongoing, and also a lot more limited impact from an ecological perspective, just the fact that you're not sort of putting together like a huge area, right? That being said, for me personally, I feel like that's a big gap, and I would love to see us do a rewilding project in an urban area. I think that'd be really fun and a completely kind of different type of story to tell. I think that is something we could look into for maybe 2027, 2028. Certainly a possibility. For 2026, we're pretty locked in. Then James asked essentially whether he could get involved in the west of England. So he lives in Bristol. And whether there are any Mossy Earth projects that he could get in hands-on. Well, we work with a partner there called BARTS, Bristol Avon Rivers Trust. We have a project there on the Chew. So that's something you could consider, maybe reaching out to them, see if they have a volunteer program. I'm actually unsure. Our closest projects, our closest team on the ground is up in Scotland. Cool. Then Sam had a question about picking rewilding projects. So what's your process for identifying rewilding projects to support or undertake? And do you have like a specific set of criteria, and where do these ideas come from? And let me quote exactly the answer I got from one of our heads of rewilding. So at our hubs, we're developing a holistic understanding of the ecosystems we are working in. So what does this mean? It means that, because we have a presence, we're looking at the whole landscape, and we're able to see the landscape as a whole, and then to pick the projects that we think are the best bang for your buck to make the landscape as a whole wilder. And broadly speaking, this sounds very simple, but broadly speaking, we apply the same concept when it comes to partnership projects. If they sound like they're going to be able to, with a little amount of money, have a real bigger impact than, if it's essentially we're able to have this multiplier effect for our impact, I think that's a really big thing that we're looking at. But specifically for our hubs, it's a lot about looking at the landscape as a whole and picking these small points to pressure. I recently read some comments on our ranch video, the one that the bit of land that we bought in Portugal last year, and that we released the video in February. The question was around like, wow, this is like so much bigger scale. Why is Mossy not just focusing on this like on large areas? And I think the interesting thing is for us, like that land is like a really nice anchor, a center point. It's going to feature loads in our various projects, but at the same time, those small but targeted projects are really important to, and I think they're in some way better value for money when it comes to the landscape as a whole, you know. So I think that's they're complementary, but I think they're really important. Cool. So Emily asks, what are some dream projects you want to work on? So this is for me personally. It's one that occurred to me recently. I always stress a lot about the seabed, marine ecosystems. I think are a lot of out of sight. You know, when you see this footage of like trawling and how destructive it is, and yeah, just it kind of bothers me to just think that it's being destroyed and no one's noticing. So something I would be very curious is like, is there a chance to map this much better? To understand much better what's going on down there, and to do so at scale in a really wide area. It's not something we're undertaking right now. It's not even something I'm trying to push and to convince our biologists to do at this stage, but that's a dream. Another dream perhaps could be to work with like an endangered species and to do like create a breeding center and to have the opportunity to pick up a species that's on the brink, like the snails that we've worked on in Madeira, the 4 species of snail that we've worked on in Madeira that were, sometimes we went out looking for them, we found 3 or 4. And then eventually we managed to get all 4 species with like 20 plus individuals, and then they were sent to zoos to breed out the population. And I think that having a breeding center ourselves could be a real like central piece in our projects, in our rewilding work. So I think that's a good opportunity as well, and something that I think would be quite exciting. Then what are some projects that you wanted to work on but things fell through? I probably wouldn't go through the whole list here right now. I feel like I've been wanting to have a project with a beaver since forever, and that's just somehow never happened. We've had beavers visit some places where we've done work, which is really cool, but just a proper beaver project I think would be a really fun story to tell. That's my job, right, is to tell those stories. So I feel like that's something that we never did, but maybe this year there's some updates on that. Would you consider hosting volunteering events? So Emily had a lot of questions. Would you consider hosting volunteering events for members to help and contribute? Yes, we have actually done a few like localized ones, mostly focused on the cliff project that we have here in Portugal, but also we do volunteering in Scotland, near Inverness. So our Wilder Firth's team organizes volunteer events, so we had a lot of help there on that front. And actually, this was a point I had for later, but we're also organizing some volunteering in Iceland. I don't know if you remember, if you saw the video we made on tree planting in Iceland last year. I still have this image of Kári and his wife just like Ragnheiður, both of them just like digging holes, in the rain alone. I fly the drone out to film them, and it's just like a single dot in like this endless gray desert covered in rain. So we're going to try to get some volunteers out to help them, and we had a lot of people sign up, but actually we had someone drop out last minute. So there's a spot available. So if you're keen to go plant some trees in Iceland between the 17th and the 24th of May, so it's coming up really soon, or the 24th and the 31st, then please contact us on our website. Just write Iceland volunteering in the email topic, and this will get to Deli, who is managing this process. And it costs essentially we're charging for accommodation and transport if you need the transport. So that's optional, of course. So write Deli and she'll write you the prices and you'll be able to join for that. So that's it in terms of volunteering. In terms of volunteering right now. In the future, we'd like to do more of this, particularly covering, of course, the costs of running the volunteering itself. So it needs to be like effective for the projects. And we would above all like to do volunteering on a recurring basis in certain locations. This is like a dream of ours. Like we have like these thousands and thousands of members that are like frothing to get hands-on with the projects and all that energy, it feels like it's like untapped potential. So that's something we're looking into. We're starting by just meeting a lot of you. So we have this membership meetup schedule. I was also planning to touch on that a bit later, but maybe I can touch on that now. So if you're a Mossy Earth member, we're doing a meetup in Vienna on the 23rd of May. I'm driving myself there. We'll do a meetup in Berlin on the 11th of July, London on the 25th, and Amsterdam on the 31st. I might not be able to attend the Berlin and the London one, but it'll be like our Mossy Earth team will be there to chat with you and to exchange ideas and to present a bit of our work. It's been really fun. We've done two of them. We've done one in Copenhagen and one in Lisbon, and both were like really interesting. It's really nice to meet Mossy Earth members in person because everybody is so full of ideas. And from those meetups, we have the hope of understanding better what people are thinking, and then it leading to a next step, which could be this increase in volunteering opportunities. Cool. Have you published or contributed to scientific papers with the work that we have achieved? Yes, we've published or we've contributed to publications in a few different places, namely the Ecological Solutions Journal, or Ecological Solutions and Evidence Journal, and the African Journal of Ecology through our termites project in Benin. But this is actually something that's really missing from our current website to really show this part of the work. So that's something that we're working on and hope to have out by the summer, which is to really showcase the knowledge that we have generated, because we're quite passionate that rewilding projects should not just use good evidence, but they should also generate evidence whenever possible, and when the cost is not prohibitive, and when you're not just trying to prove something that everyone already knows. It's really important for us to generate that evidence. So we want to start collating it properly on our website, and also to give people some tools to what I would call some open source rewilding frameworks. We're currently looking at opening up our project management documents, which essentially it's like an insight into how we think. So it's like a document that we fill out to sort of guide us through the process of setting up a project. So we want to get this all sort of sorted out, get it ready, publish it so that everybody can take advantage of that. And we're going to try to put all of this, the papers that we've published, the open source tools that we've created and so on, all of it on our website, and I'll mention it in the YouTube videos. I'll mention it on the next live stream whenever that happens, and I'm sure we'll get it out to members on emails and so on. So you should be able to see that when it happens. And finally, this last question here before I jump into some YouTube questions is, have you considered doing live streams when doing site visits or other rewilding activities? We've actually been speaking a fair bit about live streams this month. I know the people in the Yasuni team and the Mirror team, and we're talking about putting up like cameras, like in wildlife locations, like these like wildlife watching live streams. So not the me speaking to you live streams, but the much more interesting let's see the minute where like this particular animal walked across. And one of the strong candidates, my dream, would have been either a clay lick in the Amazon or the rope bridges that we have set up in the Amazon, see when animals cross and so on. Both could be, I think, really, really exciting. The problem is getting a signal in the middle of the Amazon, even with Starlink, you'd have to put that thing on top of a tree, and so a bit of logistics. So we're trying to figure it out. Maybe we'll do something like that. In terms of me being on the ground with various people or our biologists live streaming on the ground, I think that would be something really cool for us to do. We just sort of have to make sure it doesn't get in the way when it comes to the work, and when it comes to, for instance, the live stream that I want to experiment in Slovakia later in May. the question I'm more concerned about is whether there's going to be a meaningfully potent internet connection, because many times there I couldn't even send WhatsApp messages. So because we're in these quite remote locations, so it might be possible, but I'll have to test it out a little bit first. Cool. Let me get some live stream questions. Okay. Are there any more Central European projects planned this year? New projects, yes. We are looking into a new project with our partners, Bros in Slovakia. And I think that's it for completely new stuff. I'm going to be updating people on various projects, namely the Butterfly Meadows project that we funded as well with Bros, the ground squirrels. Well, actually, it's all the Slovak projects that I'm going to visit. And we were also hoping to feature the crayfish reintroductions that we've done with Rewilding Apennines, or that we've supported with Rewilding Apennines, but we're still yet to see whether the filming logistics are going to line up for that. Are you planning any new videos regarding quarry or kelp? Kelp is going to be featured later this year. The quarry I mentioned already as well. Please cover failures. It's essential for scientific purposes indeed. Couldn't agree more. And it's just part of the deal when you want to do something so publicly. It's both like kind of cathartic to own up to your failures, and it provides evidence for people who so they don't follow down the same path that you followed down. So at the end of this year, I'm going to make a summary video with everything that we know that we've ever done that has failed. It's going to be difficult to compile everything properly and organize it, but and it's a bit of an ambitious video. I'm not sure it's going to get a lot of views, but a real worthwhile one. And that knowledge page as well, I think, is where we would share techniques that haven't worked for us and exactly why they haven't, or what we have ascertained as to why they haven't. How would you? I'm about to graduate with a bachelor's in biological sciences. My dissertation is about rewilding in Madagascar. Very cool. How would you recommend I get into it as a career? Yeah, this is a tricky one. We get asked this a lot. Also, people, of course, looking for a job at Mossy Earth. But how would I recommend? I mean, from my perspective, start your own project and apply for grants. There's plenty of them out there. Of course, depends exactly where you're living in the world. The abundance of grants might vary, but that's a really good starting point if you want to stick to sort of the pure biology side of things. Maybe you can reach out to various organizations, see if they have a position. Yeah, I actually have pretty crap career advice for you. It's like one of those chicken or the egg things. How do you start when you haven't really gotten into it yet? I know for a good example is, I know Rewilding Argentina is this organization that we've worked with that has this system where they have people volunteer for them for 6 months, and they will have free food and accommodation, but they have to work their asses off, and this gives them a real sort of a clear view of who is capable and who isn't. Maybe signing up for something like that with an organization you're passionate about. I'm sure that exists. We currently don't have the facilities for this kind of stuff, but we would love to do it in the future. What happened to the native oyster project? Good question. The project, it has been stuck in bureaucratic hell for a while. The UK loves its permits. So when you think you got all the permits, there's one additional organization you needed to get a permit from. And we've had this essentially just drag on for a while with the oysters. We still want to do it. We have all the things in place to do it. Currently, we're focusing our Wild Earth Earths hub on getting the seagrass project really because we're working with a grant as well, getting that really well sorted out. And then we'll revisit the oysters. So it's currently slightly on pause due to bureaucratic hell. Maybe would be my description. Okay, then from Ireland. Oh, thank you for the 20 euros. Very cool. But just a note, if anyone wants to contribute money to our projects, please just become a member, or if you're already a member, get us a fund extra or something like this. Because YouTube takes a bunch of our money. It takes like 30 or 40% of it. It's sad. Okay, question is, I'm from Ireland. I know there's been a lot of videos produced in the UK to rewild their landscape. I'm curious if you or anyone you know have any plans to start a project in Ireland, as it's more nature depleted in the UK. We've actually done some tree planting projects in Ireland a long while ago, and I know that there's some initiatives in Ireland, but currently we're not connected to any projects. Would love the opportunity, although, you know, we have a lot of things going on. So it's always like, would love to work there, but limited by the fact that we have a certain pot of money to distribute across all the different ambitious projects that we have, and we have to sort of make sure we're not stretched thin. Because when we stretch our cash a bit, because, you know, we're fully bootstrapped, we don't have investments or loans or things like that. So when we stretch our cash flow a bit too thin, it sort of hinders our capacity to operate and to do the projects that we're already doing. So it's it's this fine balance between like foot on the gas, but still retaining like enough cash to like operate effectively. Any chance we'll get updates on some older projects, like the trash removal from underground caves, or the creation of butterfly meadows? Butterfly meadows I've already addressed. The Ohms with Dushan, that would be really cool. I would love to go back there. I'm a much better diver now. I'd probably love to venture into one of those caves actually. But currently no plans for that update. But maybe I'll add it to my list. That would be pretty cool. Like specifically that one cave where we removed so much trash from. Okay, let me get back to some more member questions that I have here, and then we'll return to YouTube in a little bit. Thank you guys all for submitting the questions. Cool. So Carsten, Karsten, one of our members, asks also a long list of questions. I'll try to get through a few because they're like a bit recurring. So what's your opinion on Planet Wild? How do you view them and the work they do? I mean, again, like I've been in contact with Marcus from Planet Wild since 2019, when I think they were called Klima back then. They were doing the carbon offsetting thing, and then when they eventually like saw what we're doing on YouTube and we're pivoting to rewilding, they reached out to me, and I had more chats with Marcus as well then, and we've chatted maybe once or twice a year. I met him in Berlin once for a coffee as well. I think they're great. They're different from us. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that as long as you're happy with how they're spending your money, and I don't have the insight on that. I really don't spend, like, I'm not a Planet Wild subscriber. But as long as you're happy with how they spend your money and you know where the money's going, I think that then broadly speaking, looking at the organizations they pick, I think they're pretty cool. So can only be happy about more people wanting to do more rewilding work. That's as far as my opinion goes. They're doing a good job. You know, I don't have anything else to add. A lot of people are like members of both Planet Wild and Mossy Earth. I think is because, you know, we're the two on YouTube really pushing this, and I think that's really cool. Also, Karsten asks, what is your opinion on reintroducing species that have been extinct a long time ago? I think there's such a long list, and this I think is shared more broadly by the team. There's such a long list of species that are not extinct, that are an absolute like mess. You know, habitats, ecosystems that are an absolute mess, that I think we have such a long list to fix before we get to something like wanting to have like a mountain lion, like what you mentioned here, like lions in Greece, or, you know, something like that. I think the list is so long before we would even consider getting to something like that, at this point, probably not worth looking into. Would be really cool and exciting in some way. I think there's some ethical questions around it, but I think it's really far down the list of priorities at this stage. Are there going to be more volunteer projects like in Ecuador? I've answered that. There's this question around invasive species. is it possible for nature to adapt to them in the short term if other parts of the ecosystem recover, or will they always need eradicating? This is the difficult question. So we battle invasives at various sites, and I think the work needs to be done pragmatically, which is in some cases, if you don't do anything about it, a species will go extinct. So until you figure out exactly how to suppress them sufficiently in the long term, that is the good solution to start with, just to make sure that whatever is there doesn't go extinct. And good examples of this are the goats and the rats that were in these islands in the Desertas. So before we did this project where we picked up those snails, they were eradicated from another island, and it's an island, so that really helps. But the eradication now allows us to reintroduce them. So there, it's a really big deal when it's sort of like feasible to eradicate them, right? But in many instances, it's simply not. We have this ongoing battle with the ice plant that kills these narrow endemics that live on these beautiful cliffs here in Portugal. We also have now a new battle that we're picking with the blue crab in the Mira Basin, one of our hubs. We have the slipper limpet in the Wilder Firths project. And you have to pick your battles here. It's like, are they immediately threatening something? If so, try to protect that one thing in that location until we can find a long-term solution. And they do exist sometimes. So an example is maybe mink in the UK. So mink, they escaped from like these horrible mink factories that thankfully were banned in the UK. And they escaped from there to create a wild population that decimated all kinds of native species, and particularly the focus for us was the water voles. And in many areas now they're controlled quite aggressively, and I think in a rather cost-effective way. So they're able to keep the population suppressed enough that the other species can thrive now. But eradication, I think that's a really big question. I mean, you look then at places like New Zealand that would love to eradicate like all the rats, the possums, and so on, and it should only have birds there, but try to do that and they're even an island, right? Like, so it's potentially feasible, but yeah, I think it's really difficult work, and it I think needs to be worth your time. So that was a lot of different examples. Cool. Now I just wanted to do a little reminder of how Mossy Earth works, just so everything is clear. So this is a little interlude between all the different questions. So the way that we do things is, we have a membership. It's a subscription. Every month people pay, and then we use that money to fund our projects. 80% of the money goes directly to on-the-ground impact, and then 20% goes to overheads. So that includes all the awareness raising stuff, right? If you added up that number, we'd get into the 90%. And if you added the grants that we receive, potentially even more. But we like to keep it separate in this way and have that 80% be, purely on the ground stuff. Where does that money go then? It goes primarily to our hubs these days. So the 4 teams that we have created, we've created a team in Indonesia, a team that is our Wilder Reefs team. We have created a team in Scotland, our Wilder Firths team, a team in Portugal, in the Mira Basin, our Wilder Mira team, and a team in Ecuador, the Wilder Yasuni team. And these are places where we're looking at the whole landscape and creating various projects and having an on-the-ground long-term presence to make the whole landscape wilder, instead of picking off like individual high-impact projects. And we found that it's a really useful way to continue deploying our cash like effectively, because it's important to have these projects that you're able to create and then follow up on and like really have full control of that, and that's like really valuable for us not to have to search for very complex setups with external partners. So to have this is quite important for us, and let's be honest, it's actually like quite fun to be hands-on. That most of our team is now biologists and ecologists, which wasn't the case like when we started in 2017. It was just me and Matt. I studied economics, and Matt's done, I think he studied marketing, and he's done like a million things in his life. So English teacher and so on. So yeah, not biologist at the time. So and then the rest of our money that we have available goes for these like partnership projects that we pick with real kind of targeted precision. I'm thinking like supporting this wetland project in Iceland that's like, close a few ditches here and you're gonna like re-wet like this huge amount of peatland, and you can reconnect like kilometers and kilometers of riparian habitat for critically endangered species. Like that's just like it's just such a well-rounded project with a bit of extra funding can get on its way and can do real meaningful impact. That's where we want to put our partnership money, or all the projects we've done with BROZ over the years in Slovakia, everything that's been flooded or made wet, so Rewilding Portugal, Rewilding Argentina, long list of partners with great ideas. And then just wanted to touch on a couple of other things that we have going on. So we've started Mossy Earth Journeys, which is the travel component of what we're doing. So we're trying to diversify a little bit how we get money for our rewilding projects, because it's just quite sensible, and it allows us to sort of get people visiting the projects on the ground, it just feels like important for us to, while YouTube and the membership and everything is working really great, that we're also sort of like building up other income streams in the long term, so that we can keep rewild. I want to do like this rewilding work for like the rest of my life, so we're trying to create these other opportunities, and I think it gives people a great opportunity to contribute a bit of extra money to Mossy Earth and to have a cool travel experience. Now, right now, I was checking just before this stream, everything is sold out, which is like kind of cool, we sold out everything. It's a bit like, I'm sure maybe some of you would be keen to go on a trip right now and you can't buy it, but we're opening dates soon. Throughout this year, we'll be opening more dates for 2027, and we're opening new trips. So we'll be opening trips to the Yasuni, to our hub there, to Scotland as well. That's all still in planning, so, bear that in mind. And we're hopefully also opening a trip to visit the Danube, where the flooded forests are. More trips and more dates on the existing trips throughout this year, and you'll be able to book them for next year. Then I've touched on the Iceland volunteering. That was on my list here. Just a reminder, if you're keen to volunteer in Iceland, we have 1, maybe 2 spots available for the week of the 17th to the 24th, or the week of the 24th to the 31st. So it's a small group, 6 to 8 volunteers, staying at like a really basic, simple accommodation and going out in, sometimes it gets sunny and it's lovely and you can be there in a t-shirt and it's like the most incredible thing. And then sometimes it's raining sideways, but if you're frothing to get out in the rain, that's the opportunity. Then I mentioned already the membership meetups. So Vienna, 23rd of May, Berlin, 11th of July, London, 25th of July, Amsterdam, 31st of October. And finally, I just want to say that, if none of these work out for you, another way that you can support our work is just by subscribing, commenting, liking our videos. It makes a difference, it sends signals to the algorithm gods to favor our content a little bit more. Cool. I'm going to get back to some YouTube questions now for a little bit longer. Would you consider any rewilding efforts in the Appalachian range? Would be really cool. I've never visited the Appalachians. Consider, certainly, like we would put so many other places on the list. I'm particularly intrigued by it because I know it's like really interesting nature there. Currently no plans. I think often our partnership projects come mostly from a really good connection, a really good opportunity. So we're not going to create a hub in the Appalachians, but if the right kind of organization with, kind of the right kind of idea came to us and it fit with what we're able to fund at that stage, and if it feels like it's impactful enough and sort of grounded in evidence and well thought through and all those things, then I think that would be a good one. How much does rewilding depend on land donated back to nature? Massively. It's a really big deal. I mean, as an example, in Argentina, where we worked with Rewilding Argentina, they were started essentially by philanthropists that donate huge swathes of land, and it makes a difference. I think what I like about Mossy Earth, or an important thing for me about Mossy Earth, is that we're also like it allows people like me, middle class to contribute to rewilding. It doesn't have to just be like a super rich philanthropist that gives like loads of money. They can do a lot of impact in one go, which is amazing. I like to focus particularly on this, like the fact that everybody can contribute $5 to a project, and those $5 are like really a big deal. And that's more like sort of how I feel about the world. But I know that we also want to do more. We want to connect with more philanthropists as well. Of course, if we get more money to do our projects, that can only be better, So it's just not something that we've ever sort of like learned much about or been connected to. But philanthropy and land donations are like massive, and they create like huge impact. So yeah, I think it's a really important thing. Any plans within Africa? I'm streaming from Eswatini. Ooh, that's like destroyed my geography knowledge. We have a project in Africa, in Benin. It's a project we've been doing for ages. I've been wanting to make a video about it for ages. So hopefully this year, I say that every year, but it's a really interesting project looking at how termites can aid reforestation and the dynamics between the two of them, because and we've been funding that mostly on the research side of things, but maybe it could have some actual applied restoration at some point. And I think it's one of those where it's like adding a bit more knowledge there could suddenly unlock like a really big lever to help fight this big problem of desertification in Africa. That's the only current plans that we have. And I see my wonderful assistant writing that it's one of the small ones around South Africa. Thank you. That really helps, man. Cool. Any update on the massive power line initiative that plants flowers under power lines? I think that's Planet Wild, man. Can AI help with these projects? AI can help with these projects, yes. We use AI. We use it to identify things in our drone photography. So we make these orthophoto mosaics and we process a lot of it with AI. We've made these models of the cliffs where those endangered plants that exist only on those cliffs here south of Lisbon. We've made a model of the cliffs, and we're able to essentially extrapolate to calculate the whole population, the global population of those particular plants through AI. So when applied, it can be really useful. But if you're asking me, like, will ChatGPT, or will Claude or the Mythos, will they revolutionize our work? I don't think so. Not at this stage. I don't use them too much for work reasons. So yeah, that's the use for us is really applied and really specific. Cool. I'm gonna crack on with a few more questions from our members. So Dwayne had a question around the safety of direct debits, which is it's a long question, so I'm not going to read it all out. But essentially, all our payments pretty much are processed through Stripe. It's like what most people on the internet use. So if you have a direct debit with us, it runs through Stripe. In the UK, it uses the BACS direct debit system. In Europe, it uses SEPA direct debit. And in the US, it uses the ACH direct debit. And I think these systems have their own sort of safety mechanisms in place. And we certainly only operate it through Stripe. So I believe it's very safe indeed. Jennifer asks, will you come to Australia? Again, another one. Would love to have that on the list. And Australia is one of those, I've never been to Australia. I've been to New Zealand. It's one of those places really would like to visit. Actually, I'll say this. If Bo Miles, the YouTuber Bo Miles, everybody wants like to YouTube collaborations. If the YouTuber Bo Miles would like to do a project with us, we would fund something in Australia, because I would just like to meet this guy and see the perspective on how he sees nature, because he's such an interesting character. So there is your collaboration meets project opportunity thing. So and I know he planted a bunch of trees as well. He's done, and he's passionate about rivers and so on. So Bo, if you have a project, if you ever actually happen to listen to this, then yeah, would be amazing to fund something that you would like to do in your local area. So if we're doing Australia, it's meeting Bo Miles. Otherwise, not happening for me. Mostly because we're spread so thin, right? In all seriousness, there's so much opportunity out there. We need to sort of like be reasonable about this. Then I have a question about the return of the podcast. Will Mossy Earth ever start making podcast episodes again? It was nice having Rewilding content to listen to at work or while driving. Nice of your job to that you can listen to podcasts. Well, me and Matt have high hopes starting this. I think we mostly gave it up. Like my year last year was a bit of a my dad passed away and like my baby was born, and so it's like the podcast went completely out the window. But also we were a bit like, we spent quite a bit of time sitting down and recording the whole thing, preparing it and so on. And then, for the amount of views that it gets, in terms of like being like fair to our time and like being like targeted with our time, I could be spending that time editing videos so that, you get more videos out on YouTube. Or Matt could be spending that time like helping organize our team in all the different ways that he does that. So it perhaps wouldn't be such time well spent, I think. So yeah, there's maybe that limitation, but never say never. Then a cluster of questions about Iceland. When will the next video about Iceland come out? This summer. A couple of videos again about Iceland. Will you do any more projects in Iceland? First, completing the ones that we're currently on. We have a few more years on our tree planting project. We have a few more years on the wetland project. And maybe after that, we can start looking into new things. What is your personally favorite project? This is like picking one of your children to be your favorite. Maybe not the right thing to do. But personally for me, I have to say that I'm just, or maybe my current favorite has to be the stuff that we're doing at the coral reefs. Because I knew Yudi from before. He was one of the diving instructors that was teaching me to dive while I was in Indonesia many years ago, like right as we were starting Mossy Earth. So it's just fun that what started from a personal connection is just such a like cool transformative project, and it's just the transformation there has just been so incredible to witness. And I love diving, and often an area that's been rewilded, the wildlife can be skittish. Even in the Amazon, you walk around, the wildlife just disappears. Like wetlands, you need to hide for hours to catch the smallest things. There it's just all in front of you, and it's just like a show. So my bias is it's the easiest project to like, let's put it like that. But besides that, I would also highlight, like, I think our land in the Mira is incredible, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing there. I again love our land in the Amazon. It's really incredible, and it's just I think also for me, like, these like land-based projects that involve a lot of water, they're quite exciting, and I know people love them as well. So I think for a reason, because you get to see this whole transformation. So yeah, those would be maybe some of my favorites. Would it be possible to make puffin decoys to establish more puffin colonies in Iceland or maybe Faroese Islands? Really cool. I don't know enough about this. I know people have used puffins to film, puffin decoys to film puffins, but I don't know anything about setting up new colonies. Last year when I was in Norway, I got to visit some puffin colonies, and it's a really incredible thing to witness. So it would be amazing to work in a puffin project, but currently I don't have any vision on this. Then Emil here had a bit of a complex ethics question. So I'll read his question here. Although the beauty of a complex ecosystem is staggering, it is also a story of fierce competition, including predation, starvation, and the death of individuals. Where does Mossy Earth stand in terms of having large herbivores, e.g. wild horses, be an integrated part of the ecosystem, which might lead to pictures of starving animals and harsh winters. Although this might lead to very interesting habitats, it can also lead to public outcry, lawsuits, etc. So I'll separate these two. I mean, death, starvation, predation, part of the natural world, absolutely. Let's say the coral video you saw last year, and not the one we just released, the one we released last year with the moray eel hunting on our project site. Well, there was a fish there trying to take some shelter in our project area, but it got yoinked by a moray eel, and that's something we can only be happy to see. It's how nature works, right? Then your question with the wild horses, I think it's a bit of a loaded question here in Europe because there's been these incidents, I think, in Denmark and in the Netherlands where, they tried to make rewilding projects kind of realistic with horses in them, and often the horses got very skinny, they suffered, they had worms, they died, the bodies were left to decompose. And I think for us, I'm not in a position to judge those projects, and I don't have the in on exactly how that all happened. But for us, I can tell you we're not gonna fence horses in and let them starve. I think that's the key question here is the ability for a population to be truly wild, or whether they're contained within a fence. And in my eyes, if you're containing them in some way, if they cannot be feasibly wild, then I think you need to take care of those animals. So for instance, the land we have in the Mirror, we're considering bringing various herbivore guilds there. So the animals that will be under our charge will be well taken care of. They won't be starving or dying, and they'll be moved on from the land once there is no more feed, because it's a limited space, right? So they can't naturally do this themselves. Essentially, I think we're just not going to go down that path because there's so many other things we can do that to create this kind of example project is not necessary. It's more visual than substance, delivering substance, if you will. Then I have a question around B2B involvement. So whether we would consider working more with companies. We work with companies currently. We have a membership that companies can buy for their employees. Essentially, it keeps it simple for us. So it's just every employee gets a membership. So we feel that's nice and easy and doesn't make it complicated. Because what can often happen with these partnerships is that even for a limited amount of money, it can be a lot of work to create content, manage them, and make sure that the partners are talking about the projects correctly as well. That's a bit of a really important thing that we want to get right. So you need to work with the right amount, right organization. So then you need a lot of people managing those relationships. Now, there has been a time in the past where I'd say Mossy Earth pretty much just started because of B2B. We had these big companies that came in and contributed a bunch to some of our projects early days, and that allowed us to then get to the membership stage, and it was a really big deal to have that support. So many years, 2017, 2018, pretty much everything leading up to YouTube boom, which was 2022. So the first 5 years of Mossy Earth, we were heavily reliant on business contributions. Now it's a much smaller percentage. But still there and still really important, still really meaningful. And if you're part of a company and you'd like your boss to pay for a subscription for all your team, it would be really cool. It's always amazing and it helps fund our projects. Then a question about the reefs. So many coral reef restoration projects use coral nurseries where they grow single corals on ropes in the water and then transplant them onto the reefs. So if others are doing this, why are we not doing it? Well, the main site that we're working on right now doesn't require a nursery. There's still loads of healthy coral in the area that fragments. So we collect these wild, naturally broken fragments of opportunity, and we then use them to attach to our reef. So it just makes our job easy. You could say we have our own gigantic nursery all around it, because the job that we're doing there is mostly plugging the gaps in that reef to ensure that it has this wonderful continuity, which makes it more resilient to future challenges. It makes it more structurally complex, which increases the opportunities for all kinds of wildlife. So it's a lot more about patching up this reef to be this super strong, amazing, continuous reef, rather than starting a reef in an area where there's nothing. Now, in the future, we might have to set up a nursery. So it's more about the type of project that we're undertaking. So currently, that's another thing I can shout out. It'll come out in the video that we're releasing tomorrow. But we're looking for a new project site in Indonesia to expand to. Yeah, if you have any leads on that, please drop us a note. I'll be putting the form in the video tomorrow. And essentially, we're looking for a place where it has the right conditions, meaning the area used to have coral. The coral got destroyed by, clearly traceable human impacts, like fishing with bombs, right? Where it isn't happening anymore, so there isn't any more bomb fishing, or it's like super reduced so that it's manageable. And we also want it to be in an area where the general ecological environment, the temperature of the water specifically, would mean that it's not one of the first places that's going to bleach in the next few years whenever there's a big heat event in Southeast Asia. So there's a few boxes we're trying to tick to get the perfect, most impactful location. But if you have some ideas, if you are listening from Indonesia, then and you have some ideas, concrete ideas, the video tomorrow will have a form in the description where you can submit those ideas. Why do we use the restart method on our sites and not any of the others? From what we looked at, it seemed like the most suitable to do both the stabilization of the rubble and the attachment of the coral, and creating surface area for coral recruits, because that's also something, you'll see in tomorrow's video, that we're putting some new, this new fish village we're creating will have a lot more surface for coral recruits. But even our current site, area 1 and 2, had 157 coral recruits in the first survey that we did, and I'm sure there's more of that, right? It's very hard to see everywhere. But so it's not just the corals that we attach, it creates the spawning opportunity for all corals in the nearby areas as well. So I think it's just really suitable because it stabilizes the substrate and it's great for growing the reef. Cool, let me take a few more YouTube questions. What are the biggest challenges when starting a rewilding project? Which aspects of it still becomes a challenge from time to time, even after running many rewilding projects over the years? Yeah, in all honesty, it's not the project that is difficult. It's quite often it's the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is so crushing, and the complicated thing there is, bureaucracy is also important to protect things, right? So the bureaucracy that we have to go through is the same bureaucracy that someone has to go through if they want to do kind of an intervention that will damage an ecosystem. So it's good that it exists. It just would be great that somehow us that are trying to restore things would have a bit of a more streamlined bureaucratic process. But yeah, the bureaucracy, you when you think you've got it figured out, yeah, it just throws you another curveball. And this goes for pretty much all our projects and our partners as well. I spent a chunk of my life in Western Europe. One thing I noticed was the extreme desire to eliminate anything considered wilderness or dangerous. Is there a way to change this attitude? Yeah, you couldn't be more on point. I've noticed this a lot, that the difference between Western Europe and Eastern Europe is really striking, in that most of Western Europe and most of Eastern Europe, of course, loads of exceptions in here, but in Western Europe, it feels like every tree should be in, let's say in a place like the Netherlands or Denmark, every tree has its place. They're in a neat row, here's where this grows, here's where that grows. And it takes a big mind shift to say, this is just going to be a place where nature can do whatever it wants. And it's happening a lot, I think, in the Netherlands as an example. And I think, yeah, it takes time and a lot of showcase projects to show people that letting a patch of grass run wild, letting all the meadows bloom and not planting all these exotic plants and so on, and that it'll actually look nice and it'll have stuff growing in it, and it's okay to have this, I think these showcase projects are really important. Now, if you're ever going to get the mindset, yeah, this is a big question for me. Let's say in Eastern Europe, someone told me, and I don't remember who it was, so I don't want to like misquote, but someone told me that in Eastern Europe, often like wilderness and especially big predators like bears, wolves, you know, they're a bit more like the rain, you know, you kind of just like accept that it's there, you know, and sometimes there's some encounters with bears that don't go well when they go into villages or something like this. But in Eastern Europe, it's accepted a lot more as like that the bear's out there. It's just a fact, you know, instead of like, let's say a place like Sweden that has this huge expanse of like forest that could have the potential for wonderful wild populations, but where, you know, if there's more than 300 wolves in a given year, they'll, you know, shoot the wolf. Because it needs to be managed and it needs to be like, you know, exactly the way that they want it to be. So I find this attitude in Eastern Europe is a lot more forgiving for nature, but it's not all, you know, like wonderful there either. Like our projects in Slovakia, I mean, are next to some insane like agricultural fields that are the biggest I've ever seen. I mean, they're just ginormous, you know. So that also exists in Eastern Europe. So sure, it has still a lot of like wilderness, more than Western Europe, but yeah, it also has some big development happening right now. So it's about it. Will the mindset change? I think it's changing. I'm an optimist, you know. I was going through YouTube questions. Are people able to access project data / updates without becoming members? Yeah, look at the website. Essentially, that's the best place, I think. Look at YouTube, look at the FieldNotes channel, look at the shorts that we post for the various hubs. Actually, you can get so many updates. And I think we even have, we also have, no, I don't want to say the wrong thing here. Are there any plans to expand further or set up new projects in other areas in the UK? Currently, for our own teams, not. We might explore new partnership projects for 2027. Cool. Okay. Now, I've been answering a lot of questions. Let me see if I can run through a few more before we wrap this up. So there was a question around open source data. So are any of your species / restoration monitoring campaigns available as open source data from your projects to allow researchers or other restoration projects to benefit from your experience? This is something we really want to get to as well in this knowledge page that I mentioned. We do share data openly in a few of our projects. We've made big contributions to public databases when it comes to seagrass in our Wilder Forests project in Scotland. But I think we'd like to standardize this more and also help you, our members, like gather data wherever you are, right? Like there's all these amazing tools like iNaturalist that are quite useful for researchers in the long run. So both the data generated by our projects and helping you generate more data, all of this, it's going to be part of a new push that we're going to try to put out there to standardize, to have a place essentially where we put all of this and to try to maximize both the impact that our projects have through the data gathering process and the publication of that data, and maximizing the impact that our members have as well. Then there's a question around carbon footprint. It's a really long question, but I've read through it. And the gist of it is, do we at Mossy Earth make like a full account of our carbon footprint from all the flights? You know, when I go to Indonesia, surprise, surprise, I'm not jumping on a train through like Kazakhstan or something like this. You know, I fly there. We have done this in the past. We even like in the further past had a rule about just not flying to projects. So I've taken trains like everywhere through Europe pretty much. So that's I've been through some rough journeys, because you know, there's one thing, if train travel in Europe was better, this would be the highest recommendation. And some train travel can be incredible, like sleeper trains, but yeah, broadly speaking, it can be tricky. I'm going to Slovakia with my electric vehicle. It's going to take me ages, and I'm a bit nervous about what the 10-month-old is going to think in the back of the car. But yeah, it's possible, right? It's doable. Will we do an account of the whole footprint of Mossy Earth? I think this is something we could consider. Although the way I view, like, I don't think we do anything unnecessarily, like nobody's jetting around, you know, it's really kind of strictly to what makes sense. So if we're limiting it to that, I feel like we're already like really aware, because like, of course, everybody who works at Mossy Earth is quite aware of that already, you know. So I think we're quite okay on that front, but it could still be interesting to try to quantify it and to really know where we're at. I think that could be worthwhile. I don't expect we'll do that this year, but we can put it on the list. Actually, I know exactly which list I'm going to put that on, and this could be something that we could get around to. And then, yeah, like the question also around offsetting, like some people mentioned that to us. Like we used to do some tree planting for carbon offsetting purposes. We don't anymore. We just plant trees for the sake of planting trees, because that's the main thing that we're doing, is working on rewilding projects. But technically speaking, if you were to look at like all our activities, Mossy Earth is a very carbon negative organization, of course. So we're taking up a lot of carbon from the atmosphere through our work as well. But that shouldn't be something that stops us from reducing our footprint too. I wish to see more field report videos. They're really entertaining, and it's helpful seeing what is actually done by the people that are doing it. I would like to see like monthly reports. So our goal is to do 2 videos per hub per quarter. So that's 4 hubs, so that should be 8 videos in a quarter. A quarter is 3 months, so you should hopefully get more than a video a month. So keep an eye out on the Mossy Earth FieldNotes channel for these more in-depth videos. And yeah, I think it'd be cool to find a way, you know, these can be a bit of extra work for a biologist, and we don't want them to have extra work. So we need to find a way that it's like really easy for them to just like talk directly to you and tell you all the crazy things that they're getting up to. So I think need to come up with some training to make it easy for them to do this. Cool, let me grab a few more YouTube questions. What's, in your opinion, the best message or project I can send to my friends and family to get them to support you? I feel like people are never paying attention or care much when I share what you do. Oh no. That's sad. That's sad. What project? I mean, organize our YouTube channel by most views, ignore the video about China, and then yeah, like a nice flooded forest video, a nice video about corals. Yeah, those I think could get people pretty interesting. I'd say a flooded forest is like really accessible. Rob saying hi Rob. Nice to see you here, man. I hope you're doing good, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon again. Do you have a system to open small chapters in different states and cities to help people rewild like their local area? This is something we have been thinking about when it comes to the community side of things, right? When brainstorming this in a group setting, I remember specifically in Copenhagen, because we don't have a project there, it was a bit like, what would you guys want? You know, like what is it that you're looking for? Because we can only dedicate a certain amount of resources to direct people in the right way. So is it our job to put people together? Is it our job to direct people towards opportunities? Is it our job to actually go and create projects wherever we want to have these communities, or only create communities where we have projects? It's this kind of like thing that we're trying to figure out through our meetups. So if you have some really good ideas, you can always send them through on our website, and you can always join us at one of the meetups, and then we can discuss this in person. What is a long-term big goal which is not in the making yet? I really think it would be cool for us to have an endangered species breeding center, or just broadly speaking, the capacity to breed plants and animals to support our projects with, and to close this loop in terms of like grabbing those species that are like in trouble and that are needed for a certain ecosystem making sure their population increases and that we're able to then release them in the right conditions as well. I think this loop would be a really cool loop to add to our projects, because currently we don't have any like breeding facilities or any like projects that we manage directly on the reintroduction front. So I think that would be really cool, and I think we're starting to work towards it. So maybe this is not like the complete answer to your question, because you wanted to know if it's something that's not in the making yet. Cool. And then let me see. Last question from our members. Is it possible to apply for volunteer positions at Mossy Earth? I've already touched on this. How can we introduce the idea of rewilding within our communities? I think a lot of it, so there's two thoughts I have about introducing rewilding in your local area, and I don't have a proven track record on this. I haven't lived continuously in one place where I've introduced the idea of rewilding, but my gut feeling says two things might work based on the interactions our partners have had and our own projects have had with the local communities at those projects. One is showing them that you can really coexist with it and that it's great. Like, why wouldn't it be amazing to have like a few more birds chirping around, like that's like just kind of making it like think about it. Like it would be nice, right? Like just for me, I think that's can be a pull, because sometimes, here I had this old man that, was telling me about like, that terrain or that piece of land over there is like a mess, and it's like not looking good and it used to be farmed. And to me, it looks kind of nice, So I was just telling him, hey, I like it. I see a lot of birds there. And he was like suddenly like looking at me like, I see that, I don't know if this is like a, a meaningful way to get some traction, but sometimes it's small shifts in perspective. And then the other thing is economic alignment, right? Like you can't be displacing people economically, and if it's economically valuable to them, it's a really big deal, right? People see the potential to have a livelihood from this thing that you're like promoting. I think it's a really big deal. How do you think we need to change as a species to work with our planet more ethically, efficiently, and sustainably? Ooh. Same question almost as the one before, which is to me is like, if most people got on board with the idea that it doesn't need to be political, it doesn't need to be complicated. It's like, wouldn't it be nice to have like healthy nature around us? It's a bit like the simple thing. Wouldn't it be nice if this river was clean? Like it's good for our health. It's nice to be surrounded by like healthy ecosystems. So why wouldn't you want that? I don't know. How do we need to change as a species? Oh, this is too big of a question. Like can't fix the world in one podcast. Is that a ginger plant by the door? I have no idea. I'm sorry. It's one of my grandma's plants. Have you ever considered an outreach manager to enable duplicating your projects in real time? For example, Mossy Earth clears 1 kilometer of riverbank eucalyptus and 3 volunteer groups clear another 3 kilometers upstream. Yeah, I think the question is, not necessarily how many muscles do we have in order to do the thing. The problem is a lot of like, where can we do the thing? Like we need all the landowners in agreement. So there's a lot of this. And then let's say we said, could loads of people go out and reach out to landowners in the Mira to help us like do more projects on the river? But what if they reach out in the wrong way and they make someone like angry and we're not able to work with them in the future? So it's like a sensitive thing. In terms of like leveraging our capacity to have volunteers to have more impact, I think this is a big deal, and that's something we really want to work on, because there's so many people out there that want to get their hands dirty, and I think it could be really valuable from an impact perspective. Any plans to support projects in Africa? I've touched on this. We have one project in Benin. I'm sure this park in Tanzania is a wonderful place. I'm afraid I'm not gonna try. Okay, I'll try. Udzungwa Mountains National Park in Tanzania is a biodiversity hotspot and could really use some of your love and support. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, if you see this live stream, everybody's like can you come here, can you come there? We're a small organization, like really we are. It might seem that we're quite big, but we're a small organization. So we have to sort of pick our battles, but I would love to. I've never been to Africa, so personally I would really love to, but we don't have an in. And an in usually looks like someone we know, someone we've connected with, someone who's been connected to us that we really get along with well, and that allow us to organically sort of set up that project. Is there any way to support a project other than money? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment, share the videos. That helps a lot, for sure. Of course, if you don't want to become a member, I doubt you'll want to spend money on a trip, but you can always go on a trip as well these days. Would you consider projects that change the original habitat if the change is for the habitat to be better and more resilient to climate change? This is also like a tricky thing. Often projects need to adapt to what's going to come next, right? And sometimes it's possible to predict this. I'd say a lot of our rewilding is more about restoring a certain natural process and then letting like nature take its course, so that this new expression of nature upon the landscape should kind of arise. Cool. I think I've been at this for a commendable hour and 20 something minutes. I'm due for some tea and a bit of relaxation, and I need to go finish the coral video that I hope all of you will get a chance to see tomorrow. So tomorrow we have a video coming out about the new fish village that we've been creating at our project sites, in our Wilder Reefs project. So please keep an eye out for that. I think it's a really fun video, really interesting new additions to that like already really interesting project. And again, keep an eye out for future live streams. Thank you so much for joining. I've seen that this stream has had actually a lot more people than the previous one, and I think it was quite cool to go through these questions. Oh, and in the future I'm gonna try to have I was gonna do a stream with Yudi for the coral project, but the connection there wasn't fast enough, and then it was hectic. We ended up not doing it. We got too busy. I'll try to schedule streams when I visit project sites, at least to have some really interesting guests answer questions for you. These can be our biologists or partners as well. So I hope to be able to bring some of that to you in the coming months as well. Cool. But a huge thank you for watching the stream. A big thank you for following Moss here. And finally, if you're not yet a member, it is what makes it all happen for us. It is what makes us able to do the work that we do. So please consider subscribing at mossy.earth. Until next time. Cheers everyone.